Hello and welcome to week 13. We're going to talk about the primary research and how to write about it and what kind of image that you need to include to kind of prove that you conducted primary research and to discuss the relevance of the primary research. And you're also going to develop a thesis for your rough draft and the introduction paragraph. But we're going to start with day one stuff, which is interpreting your primary research. You click on understanding concepts, and it's reminding you that you should already have your primary research started or finished. Hopefully it's finished. And that depending on if you conducted a survey, an interview, or online observation, there's different questions you're going to have to ask yourselves in order to analyze the results properly. And I'm not going to read all of these to you, but you should hone in on whichever one is more relevant to you based on which of the three that you conducted yourself. And of all three types of, remember these things, that you're looking for patterns, and that just because you have the broad strokes of something, you've looked at a small sample size. Even if you were on Twitter and you assessed like 30 tweets, which is a lot for a project like this, but it's still overall a small sample size, and that it's not going to prove really anything, and that you're merely commenting on the patterns that were available to you and kind of guesstimating how it's relevant to your topic, particularly how it implies or describes how your, maybe how consumers or this is, they were tweeting out something or they posted something and it's showing their feelings. Negative. So, I mean, those kinds of things where there's like, it could be important because it could illustrate that people have a really good outlook of the topic and where it's going, or they have a really bad outlook of the topic and where it's headed for the future. So those kinds of things you can guesstimate on what the relevance of these online posts or the survey answers. You can guesstimate kind of how it fits into the larger puzzle of all the other research that you've already amassed on the topic. And then when you're writing up your interpretation or your analysis of your results, whatever it may be, it should be in a paragraph format. It should be sort of like an annotation, so you've written those before. But instead of really writing the formal extended annotations that we've done in the past, you're just reviewing what you see, and you can start with maybe introducing the results, or you could introduce the results, or if that is not really going to work for whatever type that you conducted, or you're like, I don't want to do that, you could maybe say like, there were some standout tweets or posts, particularly this one where Anna, where user tweeted, and it was like something outlandish or crazy about the topic that you feel is an example of how a few of the tweets, like what they were expressing, because you don't need to talk about all of them. But when you're annotating the results of the primary research, that something starting it like that could help, introducing the results or cherry picking relevant posts. And then the results. So maybe then discussing another survey stats some more with particular numbers, or adding another quote and talking about what it could mean. And then one of the last things that you can do while you're reviewing or interpreting your primary results to draft your annotation, essentially. So to get to this, you're reviewing the results. And it helps if you take these steps while you're building that paragraph for the annotation. You're thinking, how am I even going to interpret these results? How do I build that sort of annotation for primary research? I've never done it. This is a good place to start out. And if we were face-to-face, I would have you do an in-class sort of informal paragraph about it to expand on for later, but we're not face-to-face, and this is my way of showing you the best way to go about it. I'll show you an example of a student who used a primary resource tool that I've shown you that is optional. You don't have to use TweetMap, which is, it brings up this search bar. You type in a popular word and it will show you at first like a world map, and I zoomed in here to Florida. And then if you keep zooming in, maybe because you typed in USF and you're looking and you hover over tweets and stuff, and it will show you tweets in that area for a specific time period. But this, again, is an option. The student sample I'm showing you, because they also had to include a picture, they did a screenshot of this. They included a caption like you're supposed to, but they also discussed the relevance of their primary research for almost this whole paragraph. And that's what you should be doing. And to further add to their primary research, they didn't just add one visual, which is required. They added two, and you don't have to add two, but you could. I guess they were kind of figuring these were the same sort of image, because when you bring up TweetMap, it does bring up the top hashtags and then the tweets too. And you can kind of, I guess, like say that they're the same or whatever. But so if you're looking at it, they're talking about how they searched the tweets and what term they used. It seems like kind of silly, but it's a way to discuss your research methods, and that's important, especially what term you use to search and kind of what cities you were thinking of searching, or if they mattered a lot. Oh, they meant to label it figure two. I see what they did there, so that's fine. And then they're talking about why it's relevant for their topic, because their topic was about voting and fair voting rights in Florida. And they ended it with kind of a guesstimate on what it could mean for their topic, how it reflects any relevance for their topic. So if you're wondering, how am I going to analyze my primary research? What am I going to use it for? You're going to annotate the results in a paragraph format. And then, and it should look something like this. And then you're also going to include a screenshot of something that has to do with your primary research. For this person, that was a tweet and a little map from the TweetMap website. If you conducted, or if you just use regular old Twitter, if you wanted to include some standout tweets with your analysis section of your draft, you could do like this person, and they just did screenshots of some tweets that they cropped, and they also included the proper captions. They did it alongside. I mean, you could do that. It doesn't look great. And then somebody else with some more tweets. The captions aren't perfect, but we can see how they're discussing it in the text like you would want to. Figure 1 and 2 reflect the importance of blah, blah, blah. That's important kind of terminology to use. Or if you're, you build your own you build your own visual, which is a little harder or maybe easier if you're comfortable with it, and you still integrate it in there and talk about the relevance. So depending on what you did, you're going to have a picture there. And if you did an interview, your picture is going to be different, and we'll talk about that. But so analyzing the results and thinking about sort of a formula to help you get there. And then if we go back here, I do start giving you notes and thoughts about the data visualization, which I just started talking about. And in the last module videos, I sort of exhaustively went through that. So I'm not going to do that too much. And I just showed you examples of different kinds based on if you did online observation, really. But so if you conducted an interview and you're wondering what kind of picture could I include, because everyone in the class, no matter what kind of primary research you conducted, you need to include one picture with your draft, just like this person did. I'd prefer it wasn't in the intro like they did, but they included some kind of data visual or a picture. So if you did an interview, the easiest thing is a picture of the person with their permission. Or maybe the person in the interview mentioned something and you add a picture that kind of depicts that or something. So there's ideas for any type of primary research on this sheet. And remember, if you conducted a survey with Google Forms, when you go to the response thing, there's already a visual there that you can copy and paste, and you can crop it and give it a caption. And if you did get text responses that you feel like, oh, there's so many, I don't really know what's relevant, or you don't want to just talk about a standout one, you can copy the text. You can use, this is an option to use something like Voyant, which analyzes text and shows you a different way to look at it. Reveal. And it gives you a word cloud. Because I didn't have a lot of frequency, the same type of words, the word cloud looks weird. But if you had, like, people were typing in sentences, the word cloud would look different. I'm showing you this because the word cloud generated by Voyant is another option that you can copy and paste this, and that could be your, you can see how it changes, or up here, it shows you the count and it shows you how they're linked. And that's another idea for copy and pasting an image to integrate into the paper, and you've met your image requirement. Or the terms vary is another one you could use. So this is an option to get you your picture. But if you did a survey and you don't like that pie chart, and you want to create your own like this student did, then you have the chart design on Microsoft Word. And I probably have shown you this before, but first you edit your data, and depending on your answers, the columns are gonna change depending on the numbers you put in there. And to show full transparency, you should always choose a design that has the numbers on top or inside of it. They don't all do that. Well, I chose that option, so it did it, but sometimes it just has the bar with the color, and that's not helpful. The people that are reading your paper need to know how many responses that's reflective of. And because you are going to have a caption, because that's required, you don't need a title that is redundant. Your title is in the caption, so that should be clean on top. So essentially, this is a student sample of the rough draft that you're hoping to create. They didn't put the headers. Remember that student samples aren't perfect, but this one is a good one in terms of a student sample, because they did their own data visualization. They did the caption correctly. They integrated, and that means they right-clicked it, and they wrapped the text around it. or square or type. So that, because some of you turned in assignments and your thing was just like on top of all your text, or some of you had it at the bottom of the reference page. That's not what you do with a relevant picture. And I see what this student did is they also forgot to say figure 1. Instead of here's a survey I conducted, they should have said, with survey I conducted, because that kind of terminology is a flag for me and it's a way to cite your own work. And then you don't have to add this kind of thing. You don't really add primary research to your works cited or your reference page. As long as you include a visual in the text, and you're required to for your grade, and you discuss it with the correct terminology, figure 1, because it's titled figure 1 with a caption. Your caption is essentially your citation or your works cited or your reference for that. Then you're covered. And you're telling me why it's relevant and how it works out for your topic. So those are the important things for day 1 to help you understand the interpretation and interrogation assignment. That's just asking you to do the things I showed you, a paragraph description, summarizing your key findings and trying to connect it to another source. And then you also have to include a visual representation that exemplifies your type of primary research. If you get confused about that, return to the understanding concepts and look it over and say, oh, I did an interview and I have to help myself interpret the data by asking these kinds of questions. Or I did an interview and she said these kinds of pictures are acceptable. Those are the 2 things you need to complete the assignment. You need to complete the assignment using an APA or an MLA template like this. And you need to include the password for the lecture. That's the end of the day 1 video. I'll see you again for day 2.